Hey guys, welcome back. We're back here with another video, and this is literally like the third attempt that I'm making this video. Initially, I had my camera gear set up, I was all mic'd up, and I kind of wanted to be sort of like a more of a real-time video, so it's a little bit more authentic. But unfortunately, since it's summertime in Toronto here, and it gets pretty damn humid, similar to probably Miami, my camera overheated, and it overheated twice. And when I wanted to do it the third attempt for the third time, my battery is at 2%, so I'm just like, oh boy. But I said, you know what, the footage was really good. It was during the daytime, and I find my camera performs better in the daytime, so I was like, what can I do with this footage? So I'm now kind of doing like a little narration over the video, but nonetheless, let's just get right into today's topic. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of a story on how I was almost an automotive technician, which is just a fancy way of saying a mechanic, how I started, and how I hightailed out of there real quick. Now, mostly when people are giving stories like this, it's usually people who have been in the trade for about 5 to 10 years, and they have some experience in there with their co-workers, colleagues, service people, salespeople. They have a little bit more of experience, and they kind of said, you know what, I can't take this anymore. They get out of it and they sort of pivot and go their own way. But you never really usually hear about people right from the beginning. But I do hear people saying with experience is a lot of people that are currently in the trade are sort of pushing people who are new, who wanted to trade, to sort of pushing them out. And I'm going to sort of give you that kind of perspective. When it comes to school, I'm not going to bore you guys. I fall into the camp of college was pretty much a waste of time because I was more better off being more productive and earning money and learning new skills. That's just pretty much how I was. And I was a lot better. Like, I don't know if this is arrogant of me to say, but I feel like, or I felt like it was just better for me to learn something on my own. I can learn at my own pace, and I actually have a greater understanding than like a standardized like way how people learn. Like, you sit down, classroom, there's a teacher talking, it's kind of like a drag. So I kind of wanted a little bit more excitement, so I guess I took that route. But without further ado, I feel like I said that twice already. We're probably almost 3 minutes into the video, but we're actually gonna get started. So I did all my research. I went on Google, and I'm a very detailed oriented person, so I made sure I had everything down, right down to like the steel toe work boots and what clothes I had to wear and what tools I had to have just as a beginner starting off. And I also asked people in real life, what's a good set of tools to have, for a mechanic, that I can somehow, keep it. And as I expand, I get better, I get more knowledgeable and faster. I could always expand my tool collection because that's pretty much how it is. But nonetheless, I did my research. I applied for an apprenticeship. I eventually got hired by somebody who was contracted me for about a year, which I thought was pretty fair because a lot of people, usually it's on a contracted position and they could stay as long as they wanted. The only reason why I wasn't against it, because I was totally a beginner in this profession, even though I'm a car enthusiast and I rent my own cars and sometimes my friends. It was just a really good way to begin something, and I thought this was a lot better than sitting in a classroom, going to school and stuff like that. And I also will learn the safety protocol as it is in a real environment, as opposed to in school where you know the theory about it, but you haven't actually like physically touched it. You haven't physically seen it. Like, they'll show you pictures. You can watch all the videos and all the pictures. You can listen to people for all you want, but you need to experience it yourself. And I feel like that way, you understand it more. Now, I completed my apprenticeship. It actually went smoothly. I started off, changing oil on cars. I started doing brakes, suspension. I would do like the basic service. Like, once I was proficient in the basic stuff, like, you know, fluid changes, oil changes, stuff like that, taking out the air filter, just really basic stuff. They would give me the jobs. They were pretty confident with me, but still, I still had to have someone sign off on the work I did, because that's just how the rules are. And there was like a big checklist I had to go through to complete level 1, and the foreman would have to sign off on it. The foreman or the mechanic that I was with had to sign off on the work. Now, this was probably the most positive experience I had in this whole time, and I was actually pleasantly surprised, because I was basically like, school didn't really work out for me, but this was a huge accomplishment. I actually gained experience. I could actually put this on my resume, because it's actual like work experience that I had in the beginning, and I was actually really proud of that. I could actually see myself progressing towards something. Now, when this contract ended, within a month, I got hired at the next place, and it was pretty much more or less the same thing. I had a pretty good experience. Obviously, there was some people that had some bad attitudes. There were some people that wouldn't be there, but that really wasn't my concern or my problem. But I had a very good experience. I gained a lot of knowledge, and I saw myself progressing. Like every day that I was there, I was always learning something new, better, and more challenging, and that's what I enjoyed. And if you were to compare this to the college experience, you kind of are getting your hands dirty, because you do have to get some practical hands-on experience in class. They'll have engines, and they'll show you what this does, what this part does, what this hose is, where this hose is, how to take it off, how to take off a timing belt, whatever it is. But I feel like for me, it was just better for me in this setting. So this one was really a good success, and I was officially level 3 when I completed this. It went smooth sailing, but this is where things would definitely change, and I can say now, looking back, it did not change for the better. Now, once I was kind of finished at this place, because unfortunately they had to let me go, just because they were running low on money, and basically I'm just an apprentice, so I'm pretty much the first thing to go. I was a little bit hurt by that, because it was such a good environment, but unfortunately that's just how it was. But with that being said, this time I was working for a dealership. This dealership was, I'm not going to say which one, obviously, but I lasted at this dealership all for 2 weeks. Since then, I'm still an apprentice. They just automatically assumed, that I was still a beginner. Like, when I mean beginner, I mean like level 1, where I don't even know how to change oil, like kind of level. So, things were going good there. It was more or less the same thing. I had to prove myself. So I was like, oh my God, we got to go through this again. So I went through it. I was making progress. Into the second week, we were already moving on to brakes. And I just want to disclose, the cool thing about this dealership was its location. It didn't require me to drive there, but I did drive there on my first day. And there was one particular day that I did drive, but mainly because I wanted to get home a little bit faster so I can go out with my friend later. We had plans that day. And, I was like, maybe I should drive. It would just save me a little bit of time. And oh boy, ever I was so wrong. I should have just literally taken public transportation that day. Usually I leave early and I give myself enough time if something happens on the roads, but unfortunately this time around I was 20 minutes late for work. Yes. And I just walked in, and I really feel like I shouldn't have told the foreman, but I told him anyways. I also called the place too. I was saying, I'm going to be a little bit late, but I also told the foreman. I said, yeah, I do apologize. There was some construction. But to him, it just sounds like an excuse, because, I should have known what was going on, and I should have just been up earlier. But I guess he has a point. But unfortunately, this would actually be the exact reason why I got fired from this job. Basically, I was late one time, and if you're an apprentice, you basically have to be a superstar. As the person who was speaking to me, I do believe she was, I don't think she was a controller. I think she was the manager. I think she was the manager, the service manager. And she basically said, oh, you have to be a superstar, you can't be late. But which she's not right, but oh my goodness, I felt so wrong. I just felt so wrong. I felt so angry. I was just seeing red at that point. And I said, look, this was just this one time. Like, ever since day one, I've been on point. There was just this one little hiccup. Like, you guys are acting like this is going to be a regular occurrence down the line. I didn't say that last part, but I'm just like, this just happened. Like, I didn't mean to be late. Like, you've seen, I've had a pretty good record, so I don't know how one little hiccup is going to change my outcome. But unfortunately, if that's the case, and if you do require, and I do understand, like, oh, if I'm not there, something could happen, whatever. So I didn't even stay until ending time. I think they called me into the office just a little bit after my lunchtime. I do believe it was like 2 o'clock. I didn't even stay until 6 o'clock because they scheduled me from 8 to 6. I basically just got my stuff. I told everyone, yeah, I gotta go home. I didn't even tell them I got fired, but if they put one and two together, they would probably figure out that, yeah, I got fired. And I literally got all my tools, got everything. I packed it, and I kind of took a little bit of a break on the bench outside the building. I kind of talked a little bit, there was a person there who was on a smoke break. I kind of talked to him for a little bit, and then I put the tools in my car. I didn't have much tools there yet because I just had started there. I didn't really start to I was slowly bringing in everything, and yeah, I left there because I was late. That was my fault. I take full responsibility for that. But in the moment, I was just really upset. And fortunately, I still was working my part-time retail job, so I had that to fall back on. So with that being said, the third dealership, not the third, the second dealership I worked for was a total, utter disaster. And what was really funny, this is considered to be a very prestigious and important, like, luxury brand. And I was just kind of blown away by, like, how unprofessional things were. When I first started there, it was a total disaster. I did not get this in. I did not get my computer login for 6 months. Mind you, I stayed at this place for 1 year. So every single time that I got a work order, I had to go to the service manager and he had to input it manually. And I've been begging these people, can you guys give me a login? And for some reason, I just don't know why they were reluctant. Like, there was a kid. There's always, like, younger people. Like, how come he has a login? He's not as proficient as I am. How does he already have a login and I don't? And I've seen people who just start, like, within a week or two, they have their computer logins, which is crazy because every single job that I had, no matter how crappy or shitty it was, when it came to, like, paperwork, they were very, like, on top of paperwork. Like, they made sure you had all the paperwork done, you signed everything, you read all the safety stuff, and some of them even show you how to do, let's say if you have to use your mobile phone, it tells you how to do your mobile phone. It tells you how to register the app, whatever it is. Everything is done in the first week. I did not get my login for 6 months, so that was quite annoying. And at this point, I had, since I have an IT background, I specialize in electronics. I was very good when it came to electrical systems, and that was sort of my specialty. And they sort of gave me the electrical work. The thing is, I just wasn't fast enough. And this place does charge flat rate. And if you're a beginner, pretty much flat rate is basically setting you up to fail. It's setting you up not to make a lot of money because there was a lot of pay discrepancy even among apprentices. There was one apprentice who actually was pretty good, but I don't know how much money he was making, but he had a Civic Type R, he had an FK8, and then after that he got a BMW M3. He leased both of them, but he surely has to be getting paid a relatively decent amount to afford that kind of stuff. And when I saw that going on, the pay discrepancy was all over the place. Not just apprentices, that was between mechanics and just the whole everything. It was unbelievable. One of the worst things that I've heard of this place that I heard was the foreman was getting paid $20 an hour. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But anyways, that's besides the point. when they saw I wasn't fast enough, they kind of put me as a tire boy. So they would send me over to the other facility, and I would just do tires day in, day out. And it was a lot of work, whatever. It was good exercise. I stayed fit. I became a little bit more muscular because of that. But yeah, they just put me in a tire boy, and it was kind of degrading because it was just like, basically, you guys really want me to quit. And it got to a point where I said, if I don't get my computer login, funny thing, it was June when this happened. It's July now, but funny thing happened during June, which was a 6 month. I basically said, yeah, I'm going to start planning how I'm going to leave this place, because this is utterly unbelievable. And I don't think I'll be able to survive here. Like I've even heard of some people, their cars are falling apart. They can barely afford rent. And I'm just like, why am I even getting into this profession? Or just maybe that one dealership experience. But that was probably one of the worst experiences. I've seen people last, same thing when I was at the other dealership, 2 weeks they're gone. I even heard people like, yeah, I don't like the work environment, they quit. It's just horrible. The turnover rate is absolutely disgusting, and they want to know why, but I don't think they care to know why. But for me, I eventually got my login at 6 months, which is unbelievable. And then again, they didn't move me from that facility, and I learned later down the line, people who get moved into the other facility, which is the used car dealership, where they, house the tires for winter tire storage, and also they have lifts to work on the used cars whenever they're reconditioning them. They station people there for people who they want to get rid of, and I kind of learned that, and I pretty much was like, yep, I'm pretty much on the chopping block. But they're not gonna fire me, but pretty much I could stay there forever being a tire boy. I could stay there forever. And that was, at that time, I was just so defeated. I was so degraded, and I was like, this job is literally killing my spirit. Like, I gotta go. The longer I stay here, the worse it's going to become. So I sort of plotted out how I was going to do my 2 weeks. I said it at this date. I wrote, I was really formal about it, blah, blah, blah. And I was also looking for a job at this time because, I don't know what the future was going to be like. But I do remember on the last day I was there, I didn't even stay for the full day. I started removing my tools probably, I would say, the third last day I was there. I just started removing everything very slowly. And then the last day was sort of like a chill day for me. I didn't even do any work. I did nothing. And then I had my lunch, basically, since I had everything packed in my car. After lunch, I was like, thank you. I said goodbye to the people who I actually liked, and I was out of there. That was probably one of the worst experiences that I've had in a very long time. Now, I'm not a quitter. I said I shouldn't really quit the industry because, there's many different opportunities. So I decided to be a parts advisor, I take a little bit more relaxed role and stuff. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me, because you're expecting me to have a good experience. But unfortunately, I didn't. As a parts advisor, I was expecting to be behind a parts counter, giving people parts, whatever, assigning them, basically what a part advisor does. I might have just butchered that, and you guys are probably like, oh, you probably got fired because you don't know what you're doing. But I promise you, in the moment, I knew exactly what I was doing. This was like a way easier role. It was more relaxed and everything. And I thought, you know what, I could give this a shot and see how I'm gonna do. And unfortunately, this was sort of a bait and switch. When I arrived at the job, it was basically a call center, and it was basically a call center. Like, mechanics would call in to order the parts and stuff like that, and that was pretty much it. And you would do that day in, day out, which it was pretty easy. But my goodness, they had so many different rules and stuff like that. I followed all the rules, everything was okay, but they were just, I had one supervisor. He was a really nice guy, but every single time, and it would be like a small mistake, which is like, you don't worry about it, he would point out every single mistake. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Which, I told him, I was like, quite frankly, I was like, listen, sir, with all due respect, I literally just started 2 weeks ago. You really have to give me more time to, to become comfortable and to become accustomed to this. I can't just jump into this, and I'm going to be perfect. You got to give me some time here. You got to work with me here a little bit. And that didn't really change. And, it kind of sounded a little BS to me, because he did say, oh, everything's good, but, you're spending too much time on the phone. And I'm just like, what do you mean I'm spending too much time on the phone? Like, I'm not having a conversation like they're my friends. Like, they want their parts, they want it ordered. I make sure everything is correct. I repeat everything because, this is cars. You got to make sure it has the correct part. And then one thing that I didn't like, you couldn't say you didn't have this in stock. You have to give them like an alternative, or you would have to like exhaust all your options. But if you didn't have something, you just couldn't say that phrase. And I think I said that phrase maybe twice, and that sent my supervisor into a complete frenzy. And I was just like, you know what? This is some bullshit. I straight up, after that day, I finished the work day, and I don't like admitting this, I completely ghosted them, because I was just like, I can't take this anymore. Number one, this was a bait and switch. Number two, I was just tired of like making these mistakes, and it drove me insane, because I thought like I was just being a shit person. But no, apparently I was doing the job properly, because I don't know, I always see somebody doing a worse job than me. Like they're so lackadaisical, and they're getting away with it. And even if I just do something, like even if I don't put like my period in the correct place, someone is gonna lose their mind. And I'm just like, you know what, I'm done with this. I just can't do this anymore. So I just straight up completed it. Those are only those two reasons. One, it was a beta switch, and two, I just couldn't take the constant like just belittling, saying that I did this mistake, this and that, but like just belittling me for like the smallest little things, while everyone else is getting away scot-free. So I was just like, you know what, I completed the day, did what I have to do, blocked their entire numbers, blocked everything. And I was just like, I wasted so much of my just trying to get my foot in the door. And unfortunately it didn't work out for me. So here I am, a couple years later, learned the hard way that, it's probably just better for me to be self-employed, which I am right now. It's a little bit better. I have more freedom. I don't have to answer to anyone. I really do value that. And I have more time for my friends and family. And overall, I'm just a happier person. And I know this story is kind of lame. It's kind of all over the place. But if you really made it this far into the video, thanks for watching. And this is pretty much how your boy nearly was a mechanic, but not quite. All right, guys. See you in the next one.